on anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated, yes,
To our favorite shows.
Oh, my circuits!
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary Dog!
Pearson at Blurnsball.
Futurama.
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting Network premiere podcast, TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is WWE Blood Money. WWE Crown Jewel 2019. I am, of course, joined by the two Chris's. First, from the Superblog team up, and wherever he damn well feels like it, from our Canadian office, Chris Bailey. How do you do?
I am doing great, sir. The Canadian office is aglow with wonder and joy from this crown jewel, sir. And I'm ready to talk in glowing terms about a Saudi pay-per-view. Imagine that. Blood Money won me over. That's my teaser on this little intro here.
You need that on a T-shirt and wear it around town. Blood Money won me over.
They owe me $300 million, Mark.
And joining us once again from Chris's on Infinite Earths and the Cosmic Treadmill and Moratorium Mondays and 900 things he's doing on his podcast feed and blog. Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? God damn it, I forgot your last name. Arr!
That's okay. Nobody says it right anyway.
Say it right for us, Chris.
It's Sheehan.
Oh, Lord.
Sheehan. We prefer Sheehan.
I had a total brain.
I
Can't believe I had a total brain fart there. Chris Sheehan, everybody, who's now going to take over the show. Who's now going to take over the hosting duties because I'm going to hang my head in shame for a while. All right. So yes. So this whole thing was headed up by the introduction of Tyson Fury, the lineal boxing heavyweight champion of the world.
What the hell does that mean?
That means. Okay, so that means, like, he had to give up all... He, I think, was the super champion. He had beaten Vladimir Klitschko. And then he had to give up all of his titles because he wanted to do the cocaine. So he took... And he got fat. So he took, like, a year or something off. I don't remember all the details to it. But basically, Tyson Fury, like, gave up all the belts and went into rehab for a while. And so when he came back, he technically was never beaten for any of those...
Okay.
Yeah, for any of those belts. So he's the lineal heavyweight champion.
Okie dokie.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Makes no fucking sense to me. I have argued that point from the beginning. There was a fight that he had earlier in the year where they were like, oh, he's the lineal heavyweight champion. And I'm like, he gave up all of his belts. Yes, but he was never beaten. The fuck does that mean?
Lineal. Oh, boy.
George Foreman, the lineal heavyweight champion. You know, he retired and came back 20 years later, but that's fine. It doesn't matter. And I love this because, and Chris, Sheehan, I don't know if you ever watched the UFC at all, especially when Brock was fighting, but I've always said that after Brock got his ass beat by Cain Velasquez for the heavyweight title, that, you know, as they were pushing Brock in the WWE as this monster, you know, who was beating the shit out of everybody, I said they really do need to go get him, and they need to get Alistair Overeem,
Frank Mir.
Yeah, just all these guys, and you know, and just like it's Brock's nightmare, you know, just have all
Sure.
like the only guys that can beat Brock are other MMA guys, and I've just been waiting for something like this to happen. Like anytime, you know, Brock's laid one of these beatdowns, I kept kind of looking at the ramp, hoping somebody from the UFC would show up, and then they didn't. Because Cain Velasquez's knees has turned into little pieces of chalk.
Yes, sir, they have.
So he did a couple of AAA shows. He's been training to wrestle, and so he was a good pickup for the WWE, you know, to do an angle with Brock. And even though neither one of these matches headlined this show, they were all over the poster and the marketing for this. So you had Braun Strowman versus Tyson Fury in a classic boxer-wrestler big man match.
Ugh, and it did not disappoint the history of those type matches. I guarantee
Sure
you.
did not. Yeah.
No, sir.
No. And then Cain Velasquez versus Brock Lesnar for the WWE title, which started off our show.
Mm-hmm.
because
The kickoff show.
Because Brock Lesnar doesn't like to work late.
He wanted to go home, and he was smart.
He did the right thing. He didn't get sandbagged with the rest of them.
Yeah, he saw the writing on the wall. He was like, I'm getting out of here while the prince is distracted. So yeah, I'm pretty sure Brock packed like some like white blonde haired whores in his bag and just throwing them at the prince as he was running in the other direction.
Mark Radulich, everybody.
All right, so I'll go to you first, Bailey. That was the short sort of setup for this show. What were your thoughts going into it? What were you anticipating? What were you looking forward to?
Oh, man, I was anticipating absolutely nothing but destruction and dismay, sir. Crown Jewel has not been one of the flagship shows. It's usually just, a paid dream match / tourism commercial, basically, for Saudi Arabia. That's all it's been in past years. So my expectations were at an all-time low, furthered by Team Hogan versus Team Flair, which I had no concept that was even going to be any good whatsoever. Tyson Fury, who does absolutely nothing for me, and Mr. Rubber Band Knees himself, Cain Velasquez. I just thought this show was going to be an epic disaster. But it was good. So there was a lot of stuff that I took away that I actually enjoyed. I did not look away from that screen. There was a lot of stuff that I really, really enjoyed. Very little that I completely disliked, but there was some stuff, and we will get into that a little bit later. But overall, I'm leaning towards the positive from a Saudi show, and that's something that I never thought I would say. And plus, later on in the show, I'm going to issue an apology to a wrestler who I've given nothing but crap. So there you go.
Looking forward to that. Chris Sheehan, are you familiar with the dubious history of the Crown Jewel event?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so
absolutely.
This show is in the shadow of the previous Saudi Arabian show that was headlined by the spry and young up-and-comer The Undertaker.
Mm-hmm. Someday he'll get over.
That kid's got something.
He's got what a gimmick he's got. Boy, I can't wait for the world to meet the man. And that technical masterpiece, the worker's worker from New Japan Pro Wrestling, Goldberg.
Oh, that was such a hot match. Yeah, that was something there. Yeah, and there was also the third member of that. It was a triple threat because one of the corner posts got involved too. So, and I think that the corner post won. So that's a good thing. Seeing a new guy actually win the match, it's pretty good.
Yes, I believe this was kind of like the Miz John Cena WrestleMania main event that was so bad and upset so many people the following year. They were like, "Fuck it, we'll just bring The Rock back."
Back the truck up. Yep.
Like, listen, we're clearly not going to sell tickets with our current roster. Let's bring in some old people that people remember and actually like. Goldberg Undertaker was so bad and so embarrassing. The Saudi royal family was like, "Could we get some real athletes, please?" And
get us Yokozuna and the Ultimate Warrior, please.
And listen, they have so much money, you may just see that happen. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, a hologram of Yokozuna and the Ultimate Warrior in the middle of the ring. That's where we're going to go next. So that being said, they had done Kane and the Undertaker versus DX in that reunion show, and then they followed that up with Undertaker Goldberg, which was so embarrassing it should be studied. And that's how we landed with Kane and Brock and Tyson Fury and Braun Strowman. So, given you've seen some of these past events and everything, what were you, and you saw where we ended up, what were your thoughts going into this Sheehan?
I just thought it was going to be a long show that I wasn't going to care at all about. That's what the other ones have been. I mean, the even the Undertaker Goldberg one, I think I was just so exhausted by the time that actually finally started that it was just like, it was like a mercy killing. It was just like, okay, let's just end this damn show because it's been going on for like 9 hours at this point. But I wasn't expecting much. I was expecting to be bored the entire time. Plus, I mean, I was going to watch it like almost in real time, so I'd be watching like in the afternoon, which just doesn't feel right to watch a wrestling show at like noon. But I wasn't expecting to enjoy it. I wasn't expecting anything out of it. I wasn't expecting any repercussions coming out of it, because these are kind of like if you're familiar with comics, the listeners here, these shows happen on Earth 2. You know, it's like they
100% right. Good analogy.
Yeah, they don't follow the continuity. They're a whole different thing. I mean, Goldberg and The Undertaker, neither of them are on the damn show, but here they are main eventing the show. So I didn't think that there'd be anything coming out of this. I figured, and I don't want to put the cart ahead of the horse here, but I didn't think some of the matches were going to go the way they did because of the ramifications that they would imply and how they would change the actual ongoing continuity going forward. So I thought this was just going to be a gimme show. A long show, and a show that we would probably be struggling to remember as we discussed it tonight. But I was wrong.
These are, and this is sort of like a contradiction in terms, like an acoustic guitar plugged into an amplifier.
Exactly.
These are televised house shows.
Yeah.
They've done a few of them. They did like Live at the Budokan or some shit like that, where the big thing was Kevin Owens versus Finn Balor a couple years ago. They did like Big Show versus Brock Lesnar at Madison Square Garden. Again, that was a house show that they put on the network. And so
the Starcades, the recent Starcades, they've done those little specials for,
right. They did something like, I don't know, Nut Shots in Nashville or whatever it was called.
I think it might have been called that. Yeah.
So yeah, the WWE is known for this, and while these look like pay-per-view events, and I think the Goldberg Undertaker one they kept, Michael Cole at gunpoint kept saying, "This is better than WrestleMania, everyone." Sure, it is, Michael.
Yeah.
Well, they put in more fireworks than any WrestleMania, that's for sure.
Jesus Christ. I'm pretty sure they scared the fuck out of the Iranians who started sending over F-15s. And we're like, oh, call it off, boys. They're not actually launching nukes. Jesus.
Man, I guarantee you, they make like Disney World look like a friggin' lineup at the welfare office, man. I don't know. This is...
All right, so our kickoff event here, kickoff match, was a 20-man battle royal where the winner got to face AJ Styles for the U.S. Championship. Remember when AJ Styles mattered? Ooh. And the winner was Humberto Carrillo. I don't even know who the hell this guy is. And I watched
205 Live guy.
Well, that's why I don't know who he is. And he last defeated King of the Awesome Metal T-shirts, Eric Rowan.
Yes.
Did
both Luke Harper and Rowan, yep.
Did anyone actually watch this battle royal? If so, how was it?
I did. Very paint by numbers. Eliminations were going all over the place. There was nothing of any real consequence going on in there.
Yeah.
No, the fact that Humberto actually won was a little bit of a surprise. They had a little gimmick right in the middle of it where they actually had the 24/7 title defended as well, which was embarrassingly crappy, and it was almost like an omen for the beginning of this show. I was like, my God, they're not going to have the 24/7 title as, the lead dog here to start this show. And, he had Humberto win, who's basically AJ Styles 2.0. This kid can go, but, he reminds me of TNA AJ Styles back in the day. And, really surprised win and, got the shot against AJ later on in the show in a decent match.
I think the biggest thing that surprises me out of that is the fact that Humberto Carrillo still has a last name.
Yes.
I figured that's too many damn syllables.
He's just going to be Humberto.
He's going to be Humberto within a month. I can almost put money on it if I had any, yeah. He's going to be one of the two names, not both.
All right, now we get to the real meat of this thing. This epic Iron Man match between Brock Lesnar, who by the end of it had turned into Barney the Purple Dinosaur.
Oh, boy, did he ever.
Versus the walking honey-baked ham, Fat Cain Velasquez.
I am glad someone is calling this out because I've heard several podcasts covering this stupid show, and nobody is pointing out the fact or afraid to point out the fact that Velasquez looks like a baked ham. He does.
This fucking glazed donut had the nerve to oil himself up with baby oil, looking like me walking down to the ring.
Hey, listen. He's using the entire thing that when you go to a beach and you're fat and you haven't seen the sun in a while. You look really fat, but if you get tanned or oiled, somehow you slim out. It's the Arn Anderson theory.
Look, we're here.
Wet skin looks better than dry skin, right?
Look, fellas, we're here to promote Saudi tourism and modernity, and this motherfucker smelt like sizzling bacon. I don't understand. This is a Muslim country, for Christ's sake.
And then you look over and you see Lesnar, who is about as jacked on the gas as you could possibly get on this show.
Yes, but he wasn't. But he wasn't A, fat, B, dripping with baby oil. I thought Cain Velasquez was going to slip and slide down the ramp.
Man,
Cain. All I'm going to say is, if you're number one, the baby oil thing, you don't have to do it. It's not a rule.
Please don't.
Second, if you're going to do it, hit a fucking gym and do some sit-ups, fatty.
We can say that.
Yeah, well, look. I'm not picking on Otis. I mean, I think Otis needs to from Heavy Machinery. It would be nice if he wore a singlet.
Yeah, he almost looks like Naked Midian if you look really close, because you can't even see that he's wearing trunks. His gut is so big. He looks completely naked with boots on.
Someone get Otis either a bustier or Spanx or a singlet.
Let it hang out, brother.
I feel really bad for his heart.
But he doesn't. But he's not covered in baby oil. Is my point.
Yes, exactly.
I don't look at him and think, oh, look, he's got hard nipples. The turkey's done. Moving on. So this match, now that I've done my 5 minutes of stand-up out of the way, so I actually like this match. And, as people know who listen to this, I mean, we just did 4 hours worth of podcasting last night between the UFC 244 and Canelo versus Kovalev. So we all know that I like my combat sports. And I was a huge fan of Brock Lesnar when he went into the UFC, despite the fact that he fucking got knocked from pillar to post by everybody he fought, with the exception of What's-His-Nuts, who used to have a gambling podcast. Bailey, do you remember the second guy he fought after Mir? After Mir.
I can't remember his name. I can't. I'll look it up.
Okay.
Continue on. I'll find out.
Yes. It's really funny that those are the two things I remember about him. The second guy Brock fought and actually won, beat, and he used to have a gambling podcast. Anywho. So I was saying to these guys before this started, I was actually very excited, despite my making fun of his physique. I was actually really looking forward to Cain Velasquez coming into the WWE because they had that history, and because they've sold Brock as this monster that nobody on the roster can beat, or if they do, it takes a missile launch to knock him down. Maybe not a mallet and a fucking toolbox to the face, but just short of that. And so, years ago they did Triple H versus Cactus Jack, and this has been around the Mankind Triple H feud, and so they did the whole Three Faces of Foley thing, and this is where they introduced Cactus Jack to the Monday Night Raw audience, and Triple H sold it like he had seen a ghost. Years later, after the invasion, Vince McMahon would be like, I own the world, and out came Ric Flair, and Vince famously started tugging on his ear and peeing himself, and it's so I love the idea of somebody's worst nightmare coming back to haunt them. And I thought I thought the story that they've been doing with Brock Lesnar bullying Ray and nearly killing his son, and then Ray's like, well, fuck this, I'm gonna go grab somebody from your past, and he had the perfect foil in Cain Velasquez. So I was really looking forward to this match. And I understand this was supposed to go a little bit longer. This wasn't supposed to be so short. But here's what I'll tell you. Go watch any of the fights from UFC 244 that ended in a finish. Most of them were in the first round, those finishes. As a matter of fact, prior to UFC 244, Jorge Masvidal knocked out Ben Askren in 5 seconds. No joke. If you haven't seen it, it's fucking great, especially if you hate Ben Askren. So, real fights don't always last 20 minutes and involve 107 topes and 6 Panama Sunrises.
Damn right.
Sometimes you just knock a motherfucker out. or he almost knocks you out and you grab an arm and twist it and he says ouch and it's over. I thought Brock Lesnar and Cain, I've said all of that to say this. I thought Brock Lesnar and Cain Velasquez put on a pretty good looking worked shoot. And it ended with, it's so funny because Frank Mir defeated Brock Lesnar in almost the exact same way they pulled off the finish for this one, where Brock was standing over him, pounding his face into oh so much hash, and Frank Mir grabbed his arm and locked in a Kimura.
Yep, same finish.
Right,
Yep.
And so this time Brock Lesnar got to play the part of Fat Frank Mir. And I thought it was great. Could it have been a little bit longer? Sure, but again, combat sports don't always end the way we want them to. Sometimes people get knocked out in 30 seconds. This one lasted 2 minutes, 10 seconds. What did you think, Sheehan?
I thought it was a lot better than it was going to be. I was worried that it wasn't going to be all that great. I didn't know who Cain Velasquez was. I knew the name, but he could have come to my house and I wouldn't have known it was him. I mean, when he came out on SmackDown, my first thought was, "Wow, Frankie Kazarian got fat." And then I'm like, "And what does Frankie have to do with Brock?" So I didn't know what was going on. But then they told me who he was, and it was all good. I love the build. They did that one spiel on SmackDown a few weeks ago where they showed the fight where Brock got the big gash under his eye, and then they phased out of that picture into Brock today where he's got the big scar under his eye. Just perfect storytelling, which is weird from WWE these days. But
have you ever seen the fight? The actual fight?
I have not.
Okay.
I have not seen the fight.
Do yourself a
I saw
favor.
the clips they showed.
I was going to say, do yourself a favor. When you have a chance, Google breakdancing Brock.
He does. He breakdances all over that octagon.
Yeah,
that's something I got to see for sure.
Yeah, Cain Velasquez hit him, and you could actually hear the soundtrack to Break Into Electric Boogaloo come out of Brock's ass.
Love it. But I thought it was a really good match here. I liked the you called it the worked shoot. I thought that's a really good explanation for it. I love the fact that it did end the way it did, and it was a relatively quick tap out because in a real fight, if you don't tap out, you're going to get an arm broken. So you have to think about your next fight. So you have to tap out before you're broken. So I like the fact that it was no shame in tapping out. It was just this dude was better than me tonight, and I could have done without some of the ballyhoo after the match, but the match itself, I thought it was perfectly fine for what it was.
Ronda Rousey's reign of terror, where she armbarred every woman that she got into the ring with until Holly Holm. By the way, the answer was Keith Haring, Bailey.
I thought it was Shane Carwin.
Shane Carwin's one that knocked him out, and they still wouldn't end the fight because Brock equals money. But Heath Haring was the one that he knocked across the cage and ended up winning by decision, I think it was. In any case, Ronda Rousey, during her reign of terror until Holly Holm kicked her head off in Australia, she would armbar some of these girls who didn't tap right away, and she was dislocating elbows and shoulders along the way. Mm-hmm. Fucking, oh gosh, I can't remember her name, but the chick she had a Strike Force, the company she came from before the UFC, used to do kind of like a showbox kind of a thing where they would be up and comers, and the girl fights in Bellator now, but she gave her an armbar, and it was her last featherweight fight before she dropped to bantamweight because she wanted competition in Miesha Tate's title, and she was done. When she was done with her arm, it looked like it had been twisted into a pretzel. It was just dangling and all, and just twisted, and it was ugh. And it didn't look like she had done much to it. But as to further Christian's point, yeah, if you don't tap, if you can't post and reverse it or get out of it, and you just hang in that hole, your arm is going to get messed up. So I thought they did a good job with that. Bailey, your thoughts?
This was Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior round 2. So talk about getting your win back. So clearly that was a bone of contention for Lesnar, having that loss in his career. And somebody in the WWE likes the fact that they want to give Lesnar his win back. So you got the good old bring the Warrior to WCW. We're going to job him out and get that win back for Hogan. So same deal here. I thought Velasquez looked pretty good actually once the actual match started, because I was a little bit concerned. I saw his AAA work there on YouTube, and it was pretty decent, but he was fighting luchadors, so it was extremely choreographed. They went the right direction with this one, using an MMA thing, and it made sense because he had two MMA fighters. So storyline-wise, this thing really worked. I love the armbar submission. A lot of folks think that a tap-out loss for Velasquez hurts him, but I don't think it does. I think you really got to concentrate on proper finishes and matches and not worrying about hurting someone's career or anything like that. Do the right thing. And I think we're in a time where Brock Lesnar, say what you want about the guy. The guy is money. He's the right guy to be on top, and that was the right decision for this match to have him tap Velasquez out. So he did look like a baked ham. He was overweight. His knees were gone to spaghetti, but you know what? They really pulled it off, and I thought the shots and everything in this match looked really good. And it's a big, stark contrast when you consider what's to come when it comes to Mr. Tyson Fury and that disaster with Braun Strowman, because they completely went the opposite direction with that one. But no, overall, big win. I really enjoyed this one. So good all the way around the board.
My understanding, the reason why they won, the length of the match was somewhat due to Cain Velasquez just not being able to go. He needs surgeries on his knees, which is, Cain Velasquez spent the better part of his UFC career winning a title, then being hurt for the next year, not being able to defend said title, or the occasional being knocked out by JDS. Either way, Cain Velasquez, I think, thought he could go a little bit longer and do a little bit more, and then was like, nope, my knees are shot. So I was like, all right, let's just get in there, do what we can, and get him out of there. And we'll see Cain probably come back, in 6 months to a year, and he'll have, and now they're 1-1, even though one of them's in the WWE. So there's plenty of places to go with Cain and Brock, and if they can't get Cain, I'm sure they can give $5 million to Alistair Overeem, and he can kick Brock in the itis again. And it'll be fantastic. All right, moving on. The WWE Tag Team Medley.
The turmoil.
For the WWE Tag Team Worthless Trophy.
Yes.
30. Don't you love the print job on that, though, the engraving? I mean, it looks so expensive, right? I mean, it's just it actually looks like they just rolled it on with like nylon or whatever. It just looks so bad.
Just wrote on it with magic marker.
Yeah, like they found the closest trophy to the stadium. It's like, just get any trophy. We'll put words on it. Just do it.
Later on in the night, they're going to stand in the ring with the trophy and AJ Styles, and the trophy looks like it's about to fall apart.
Yeah.
Anyway, this was the OC defeating the Viking Raiders, the New Day, the Revival, who also need to hit a fucking gym. Jesus. I mean, I know these guys try to ape the Brainbusters, but please stop looking like Arn Anderson in 1997.
No, I disagree. That is a good look, and I like the Revival. It's a good throwback, and they need to look the part. You can't have everybody looking like, U.S. Olympic diver like Finn Balor.
I'm not. Look, I'm not saying they have to have washboard abs, but maybe not have love handles coming out of their trunks.
Fair enough.
The B team.
B team.
My son's favorite tag team, Heavy Machinery, Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode, Hawkins and Ryder, and the Lucha House Party. I mean, this was one of those where it's like, hey, we're in Saudi Arabia. We want to try to get as many people on the card as possible. Give them a big show. Nah, it was fine. I mean, nobody in the WWE is a terrible wrestler, so it's kind of like, and the WWE style is very sanitized and in a very concrete box, and so it's very, Now I say that, and people are like, "Hey, the next night was SmackDown with Adam Cole, Bebe, and Daniel Bryan," and it's like, well, that is an exception, but the general average WWE match is pretty compartmentalized, in a very specific sanitized style. So this tag team match was a lot of that. You know what I mean, Sheehan?
Yeah. This was I hate when they do these kind of matches. Even if we like kayfabe it, like this is actually like a real trophy that matters and means anything, you can't do that in a bullshit gauntlet match. Because you just the last team could win the whole thing and not have to beat anybody but one team. I just hate the fact that they do that. It reminds me of like the escape the cage kind of crap. It doesn't mean you're the best. It doesn't mean you're tougher. It doesn't mean you're a better performer. It just means you got out of the cage first, or you pinned one team down instead of how many teams were there? 17, 20, 34? I mean,
Just as well.
I mean, I think the B team came in 3 or 4 times, right? Oh man, I kind of zoned out during this one, and this kind of like brought me back to earth after the Brock match. I was like, oh, maybe this is what the rest of this show is going to be like. But I'm happy to see the OC get any kind of push because I kind of dig them, and but it's I didn't care. I didn't care at all.
Bailey?
Equally could not stand it. A number of point outs here. Kofi Kingston and Big E, I mean, they let him have a couple wins here. They put him over Heavy Machinery. They let him beat the B team as well, and then they lost to the Revival. This would have been an opportunity to start a little bit of dissension between Big E and Kofi. Just a little, even a glance or a look when somebody took the fall, you know what I mean, would have been nice there. But they took this opportunity to have this as the Viking Raiders, technically, their first televised win. So it's kind of odd that it wasn't for a set of belts or anything like that. It was just over a stupid trophy in a Saudi Arabia blood money pay-per-view, which is equally as concerning. But really, really strange. This, like you guys said, this is a lot of trying to get people paid here. I mean, Lucha House Party. Could you be less over than Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode? Let's be honest.
It's so funny that you could be the NXT champion and be at the top of the card and have everybody who comes to the takeovers and Full Sail just loving you, and then you go to the main roster and you're just a dude. You're a dude chasing the 50-year-old rapper for a worthless belt. Poor fucking Robert Roode.
Yep. Oh.
He went from
I feel so
glorious to who
bad.
gives a shit.
Well, they did beat Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins in 7 minutes.
Ugh.
Christ.
Zack Ryder, who couldn't get over when he was over because the old man didn't get YouTube, but gets an IC championship when 90% of the roster injures itself 5 days before WrestleMania in Dallas. Ugh.
I think I have a theory about why he won that title. After the match, they had a Snickers commercial with Ric Flair and Charlotte Flair. It was supposed to be Charlotte Flair, but it was one of those like when you're hungry, you're not you or whatever.
Right.
So like Flair was wooing and Ryder was wooing, and then he ate the Snickers bar and turned it into Charlotte. But he had the belt, so I'm thinking
explains
that's
it.
probably why they gave him the belt, just for that stupid ass Snickers commercial.
Right, which
because he lost it the next night anyway.
Right, to The Miz, because it was his turn to hold the worthless title. By the way, this whole block since Kofi lost to Brock in like 10 seconds, you can call this entire block of matches Kofi's been having as the Kofi Consolation Tour. It's like, well, sorry, you're in the opening for SmackDown, but we can't have you with the belt. Fox doesn't like it.
Boy, is he prominently in that opening. Like, he's got his own giant character.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he's like huge. It's such a weird thing because it's like, well, Fox wants this and Fox wants that, and they like the New Day so long as you're shucking and jiving and smiling. But fuck, we can't have you have the title. That belongs to Brock.
It's true.
Speaking of shucking and jiving, Saudi Arabia's favorite wrestler, Mansoor, defeated the one guy on the roster that gives every ham and egger a decent match, Cesaro.
Absolutely.
At this point, Cesaro is one of those guys that could have a good match with a broomstick, and I'm sure it's only a matter of time before he has to put one of those over too, because somebody who owns the janitorial company is giving the WWE $300 million. Chris Sheehan.
Well, promising to give them $300 million. We don't, the check hasn't cashed yet.
We'll talk about that later.
Yes, Cesaro deserves so much more than this. I mean, Mansoor ain't bad. I mean, he was pulling off some pretty cool moves. I don't know why he hasn't come to America yet. Is he just going to be the guy who is, when they have these shows, is he just going to be prominently on those? Or in a mid-card match on
Maybe
those?
the Saudi prince won't let him leave.
That might start a little trend, right? But I just don't get it. I put him over anybody, but freaking, it's always got to be Cesaro, because he, like you said, he gives everyone their best match in an extended period of time, and he looks good in losing. So it's just a shame.
You know what I love about Cesaro? So he was the guy that Vince McMahon cited as, we have these great workers.
The brass ring.
They won't grab the brass ring. He was the one they tapped to put over the Tough Enough guys. Even though I think he won those matches, but either way, he was the one they tapped to wrestle them, to give them decent matches. He's the one that they tap, to go to NXT UK to put over Mansoor. It's like he's the one guy.
He's the utility player,
right?
Yeah.
He's like a designated hitter. But, we can't give him a run in the main event, though, because he has no personality.
He's Tito Santana.
All right. Yeah, I was going a different direction, but you know what? You're right. This just took the air right out of my argument. Chris Bailey. No, don't apologize. You're not wrong. It's just...
baby!
It just makes me sad.
So Cesaro versus Mansoor. So right off the bat, I don't like Mansoor's name. I don't think that's money whatsoever in the U.S. I don't know. There's something about it that reminds me of Mantar every time, and it just got to go away. So that's right off the bat. You got Cesaro coming out. I mean, the guy is cut out of pure steel. I mean, he's an amazingly ripped athlete. He puts on a good show, as you said, but Mansoor's work in the ring is unusually crisp. I just don't know how to describe it. If you watch this match back, he doesn't miss anything. And it's not just Cesaro being in the right place, right time. I mean, he's hitting picture perfect insecurities. The moonsault he delivered, one of the best I've seen anywhere. He hits drop kicks perfectly. His over-the-top rope stuff is good. The only thing that I can say that Mansoor really, really screws up is when he emotes. He's always got this thing like he just... ejaculated early or something, and his eyes are bugged out of his head. It's like,
Percy
no!
Watson special. Yeah.
Yes, but that's the only thing I can say. Like, that's the type of look, he's got his eyes bugged out of his head just when Cesaro kicks out at, the first pinfall attempt. He looks like it's like Triple H versus Undertaker, you know what I mean, trying to beat him to break the streak. I mean, I don't know. It was really, really unusual selling for Mansoor, but... I mean, how many matches this guy had? Has he had 2 overall?
I don't know.
He won the Battle Royal last.
Yeah,
he did the Battle Royal, but then didn't they do like a tryout tournament or something?
He had
like
that
a breakout
tryout thing for the ring with the Revival, where they kicked the crap out of the Revival.
Okay, yeah. I know. I mean, I was just looking at his link that says that he's still on the NXT brand, so. I mean, he hasn't been in on any of the Wednesday Night War NXT shows, so I don't know.
I don't know. I kind of dig the guy. He was super over with the fans. When you think hometown hero, this is exactly the response you want in your hometown. So, good for him. Good match. Cesaro did his job again, gentlemen. Hopefully we can see Cesaro one day rise above Jobberville, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen.
I want him next time at the next Saudi Arabian show to be brought in by a Leo Rush who's painted blue, and he's riding elephants, and there's like a circus behind him and everything, and they're going Prince Mansoor. No, anyway,
that's horrible.
It took me a second, but I actually got the reference. Okay,
we can move on then. My favorite match of the night. Tyson Fury defeated Braun Strowman by countout.
Jesus, you can't even joke about that.
Oh, this was so good. I haven't seen...
The Gypsy King is here.
Yes. I haven't seen a match of 2 lumbering fucktards in such a long time. There's for all you comic book fans, we make fun of this all the time on source material, but there's a Power Man comic, the living Weapon or something like that, where at the end of it, Iron Fist. Jesus Christ. Iron Fist, the living weapon. Iron Fist turned into a building and had like a fist fight with another large creature. And that's kind of what this was, where Tyson Fury was the building. Just poor Braun Strowman, who isn't exactly a great worker to begin with, tried to carry this motherfucker in an almost 10-minute match. And what cracks me... What cracked me up about this is there's not a whole lot you can do. Like, on your best day, you can't do much with Tyson Fury. That guy has active boxing matches coming up in shortly. Like, I think he's got, assuming Deontay Wilder beats Ortiz later this month, he's got a rematch with Deontay Wilder, like, for early next year.
Is it for the lineal title?
It's for whatever fucking belt Deontay Wilder currently holds. Yes, I believe they made a trophy for the lineal title. Here's the comparison that I made. When Floyd Mayweather fought the Big Show in an embarrassing match at WrestleMania a few years ago, at that point, Floyd Mayweather, I think, was done boxing. So if he injured himself, who fucking cares? He can go home and rest in his Scrooge McDuck money vault. Tyson Fury is an active boxer who had like 5 minutes to train for this. There's not a whole lot you can do with it, so I was super forgiving for this because like you put Braun Strowman, who again is not exactly AJ Styles, in there, and it was like, okay, we'll carry him to a good match. You're the pro wrestler. He's the boxer attraction.
That's the problem you got right there.
You can't hurt the guy. He's not a wrestler, and oh, by the way, you're the headlining match. Even though it didn't go on last, this was still like, come on, they're both on the poster. This was This was one of the major angles they pushed going into this. So, I'm okay with Braun Strowman doing his level best just to get through this without hurting the guy. And even with all that aside, the fact that the story of this match, there was the funny thing about this one was there was actual psychology here. Braun Strowman, I think, tried to carry this as much as he could, and then if you don't know that Tyson Fury kind of has pillow fists and his whole thing is he's just really herky-jerky and hard to hit, you would be okay with the fact that Tyson Fury kind of hit him once, and because he has boxing superpowers, knocks out Braun Strowman. It's fine. Boxers knock people out. I get WWE's stupid logic. So that's what they went with. Braun Strowman fell outside. Tyson Fury punched him as he tried to get back in. Braun Strowman was on Queer Street. He gets a count out. Everyone's happy. Or maybe not. Chris Sheehan, what do you think?
This is a guy, I don't know who Tyson Fury is, outside of, his vaunted lineal title, I suppose, but he seems to be a big fan. So it's hard to dislike him for that. It seems like he really wanted to do a good job. I don't think anybody wakes up in the morning and says, I want to put on a really crappy match tonight. But I think he really wanted to show something. I thought
Brock
he really
might.
wanted to perform. Brock's like, it's been a little while since I got paid.
Brock, you're wrestling Dean Ambrose because every other match we had planned for you at WrestleMania fucking bottomed out.
Somebody got sick, yeah. But I cringed a few times, not because I care if the guy's going to get hurt or not. I don't know about his boxing career. I mean, I don't wish him any harm, but he did that classic shutter step before every single move. Like Braun would go for a body slam and he would stop, get in position, move forward, stop again, get better into position, and then Brock would pick him up and drop him. But that really just took me out of it. Not that I was in it to begin with, but it was I don't know, and I hate the fact that Braun they never gave him a chance to really do anything. He's already become the new Big Show, where it's like, okay, well, you're going to be face or heel depending on who you're against. You don't have a personality. All you are is the anti who you're against. Yeah. So if you're against Roman Reigns, you're a bad guy. But the next week, if you're against whoever, you're a good guy now.
You're the guy that flips ambulances.
Yeah, he flips ambulances. But and it's like they build him up just to have somebody beat him. They build him up again just to have somebody beat him, and that's kind of what we got here. I'm glad he didn't get pinned. I think the way they did it was if that finish happened on American soil, I think it would have got booed out of the building because it is a cop-out ending because nobody really won. It was a count-out. I mean, who cares? But there they dug it, I guess. So what are you going to do?
I think they were just happy to see big stars.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
This isn't exactly a smart crowd. They didn't. This isn't PWG. This isn't AEW. Or anything like that. This is a modern Saudi Arabian stadium crowd. They were just happy to see two elephants hit each other with
the
trunks.
spectacle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy.
Bailey?
Yeah, so here's what you got going on here. So when we talked about Velasquez and Lesnar in the first match, MMA style, it worked, it clicked together. This one is boxer versus wrestler, which is never a good idea at any point. But they missed the entire psychology piece as far as I'm concerned. So right off the bat, if you're writing or scripting this particular match, you want to make sure that you got Tyson Fury ending up in the wrestler's world. So all of a sudden he's showing up in Braun Strowman's world. You know what I mean? So right out of the gate. And you could still use this count-out finish. You should have established that, hey, you can't throw punches. You've actually got to wrestle now. And start out of the gate with that. That should have been the psychology of the match, that he had to physically now wrestle the wrestler. But, of course, they didn't do that. And they did this, scuttlebutt disaster, flopping all over the place and, jockeying for position. And then they did the finish. So, he knocked Braun Strowman out on the outside. He was out on Rubber Leg Street, and he couldn't get back in the ring and was counted out. So, anyway, Strowman decides he's going to get his heat back. So he comes in and he delivers his power slam, which is his finisher, by the way. And Tyson Fury just pops right back up.
Gets right up.
Like,
Yep.
did nobody fill this guy in? Like, okay, stay down a little while. This is how he's getting his heat back, or what? I don't know. This whole match, it was nothing for me. It was I'd never watch this again. I hope Tyson Fury never shows up on another WWE show. I'm done with this guy.
No, I hope they put the title on him.
Oh no!
He'll have to put
Die,
it over
Mark,
his shoulder
die.
because the lineal one's around his waist. Right?
Sure. I'm all at this point. I'm all for WWE making decisions based on what USA, Fox, and the Saudis want. All right. Now we actually have 4 matches left to talk about, and they were all pretty much just wrestling matches. You had AJ Styles versus Humberto Carrillo. They had a match with a lot of flippity-doos. Bailey?
Literally. Oh, man, there's nothing to talk about here. I mean, you had AJ Styles win. You had, you had your boy, Mr. Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows out there at ringside and all that stuff. They came out after and displayed the trophy. Solid back and forth match. These guys had decent chemistry. It was like AJ Styles versus AJ Styles in, early TNA days. That's what it reminded me of. But just basic good back and forth, good athletic match. Absolutely nothing memorable here. Just gets a pass and a high five for me.
Sheehan?
AJ is one of my favorite wrestlers, but every time he comes out to the ring, I reach for a fast forward button that doesn't exist. I don't know what it is, but maybe it's the people that they have him up against. Maybe I just don't have the energy to deal with such a long match. I mean, we had like the best of 7,000 series with Ricochet just now, and now we have a match that reminded me of that again with what's his face, Carrillo. It was a match that we needed to get through to get to the next one, and I'm glad they didn't put the belt on Humberto. I was a little worried that they might, but I'm glad they didn't. And I think the best part of this match was Carl Anderson struggling to pick up the trophy at the end. That was pretty good.
So I loved this next match for what it represented, for what they were trying to do. I just think it's hilarious that the very first women's match in Saudi Arabia are Natalya and Lacey Evans, who still needs to go back to NXT and learn to work. I mean, I love her gimmick, but she's a bit clunky in the ring, and she had to depend on Natalya to drag her through. And so Natalya is a good worker, but she's like half crazy, and nobody gives a shit about her. So, So two good picks to do your first match in Saudi Arabia.
They checked all the boxes.
You know what I also find hilarious about this? It's like, it's like, hey, we really want to have a women's match on this card. We feel like, as far as the narrative is concerned, this really pushes modernity. Women are driving in Saudi Arabia. Things are happening. Saudi Arabia is moving into the 21st century. Great. Can you have two blonde white girls? Because that'd be fantastic for us. Could we have zero variety in this match? Literally, the only color in this match were the two different T-shirts. Cool. So, whatever. Look, my wife watched this, and she follows Natalia on social media. She follows her on Instagram or whatever, and she kind of teared up. And the match was sort of secondary to what it represented, which I'm fine with. The match itself, again, Natalia dragged Lacey Evans to yet another clunky match. But sometimes, again, it's kind of like, for me, it was kind of like Tyson and Braun. With everything else surrounding this, I'm willing to be forgiving for what the match was. If I had to judge this strictly on the moves, which I kind of hate that style of wrestling to begin with, where it's like, oh, look, the Young Bucks did 900 fucking flippity-doos. That's what makes this a 5-star match, Dave Meltzer.
I think there was a good reason why they limited the moves in this match, and I'll get into it a little bit in a second.
For me, that's not wrestling. I'm kind of in the Jim Cornette school of thought, where that's just synchronized swimming. But hey, it was fine. I liked the emotion. I liked the drama. I liked what it all represented. So I hope if they ever go back to Saudi Arabia after all the shit show that happened, I hope there's more of this sort of thing. Bailey, what did you want to add?
You know what? Really, really, the emotion hit me in this one. I was a slobbering baby there on the couch watching this one, to be quite honest with you. But a couple things to point out. So, number one, fuck you to the idiot who threw a water bottle at Natalia on her entrance. See, that guy's an asshole.
I didn't even notice that.
Oh, yeah, check it out. Oh, yeah, they pitch a water bottle at her coming into the ring. What a dick. Anyway, it was funny because clearly they told the women to tone it down, ease off on the sexiness and all that stuff, you know what I mean? So all of their moves, there was none of these moves where, they were sitting there with their legs parted or, bent over too long. You can see that it's really calculated. It's not the usual sitting. Yeah, it's not the usual schlock you see on Monday Night Raw. But God bless Lacey Evans. Out she comes, and she's still doing the sassy Southern Belle stuff, which was funny as heck. I mean, she wasn't overdoing it, doing the almost like the velvet sky thing, getting into the ring or anything like that. But she was Natalia was basically being really stiff, so every move and motion was calculated. When she cheered to the fans, she would literally just raise her arms up. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Like everything was...
She would wave or just raise her arms up.
They really tried.
Oh, they really tried. And the match itself, I mean, basic as anything, but that's all it needed to be. It was just, and when the girls embraced at the end, I mean, you could see Natalia even started the match crying, and I was right there with her, to be quite honest with you. I think this was great, and I want to actually say that Lacey Evans, this is the first match that I've seen you not botch one move. So I'm going to apologize to Lacey Evans.
She did moonsault Natalia's knees.
Oh, well, okay, fair enough.
That's what she was aiming for. It's fine.
Suck. You still suck. Go back to NXT, like Mark said. Apology rescinded.
You know what though? Every little girl and adult gal in there was they showed boy, did the producer was like, shoot every girl, every last one of them, and they were all super into it.
I was super into it too. I just wanted these girls to do well.
My daughter. My daughter and I watch Women of Wrestling. Chris, Sheehan, if you don't know what that is, it's on Axis, and they shoot for like a season. It's kind of like a spiritual successor to Glow, only these women can actually work. And it's not nearly as silly. It's close, but it's not as bad as Glow was. And, my daughter likes the fashion, as she calls it. She likes the look of the girls, and she's super into watching them wrestle, but she's not like super critical of the moveset. She's just like, if a girl cheats, she reacts. So that's my point. The reason I bring that up is that was kind of what was going on here. It really didn't matter how good or bad. I mean, as long as there wasn't like an obvious fuck up where somebody tries to do like a hip toss and lands on their own head or something. As long as they were fairly competent, what mattered was the female reaction in the audience, which was super over and super emotional, and it really made for a great atmosphere.
Oh, I was just being a dick about her landing on her knees. I was just messing around. She did, but I mean that's not the big deal. This was a fantastic little spectacle they had here, and they really took us for a ride. And I didn't expect to be emotional by it, but seeing the emotion in their faces really kind of drove home how important this was. And then you can like stack other layers on top of that, because like Natalya kept looking up, and it's like, if her father would have made it another year, he would have seen her in this huge match. And it just so much emotion there. I mean, Corey started to choke up. Michael Cole is a damn robot. He doesn't care. But I just thought that this was a good move. I think that the people they're trying to reach with this move aren't going to be swayed by it, because they'll be like, well, it took them this long to do it, so what's the big deal? But I think the fact that they did it was a big deal in and of itself, and those people you're just never going to please. But
let me say, anyone who reacted that way, fuck off.
I mean, it's Twitter, it's internet. That's just how people are.
But here's the thing, and you bring up a good point, because I actually had that conversation with my wife, and here's why I say fuck off, and that annoys me. You're not. Saudi Arabia has been what it's been pretty much since its inception. They're trying to modernize. It's not going to fucking happen overnight. The U.S.
It shouldn't happen overnight. Because when you change things overnight, it's not gonna work. You need the plan.
It's 2019, and we're still talking about reparations and the treatment of the black man in this country. The Civil War was fucking in the 1800s. The fuck out of here. Jesus Christ, we're still talking about the treatment of Jews in World War II. Takes a little time to get over shit, people. Maybe give them this one and be like, okay, small steps, baby steps, we got it.
But it's a step forward, not backward. So let's appreciate it for what it is.
Absolutely.
But that's the thing. It's like there are people. It's like, well, they didn't do all the steps that like Saudi Arabia didn't become, fucking Vegas overnight. It's a little unrealistic. I'm just saying, like, accept the small steps.
Sure.
That shit annoys me, and I just feel like there are people who are so myopic in their thinking that
they don't have the context.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Speaking of myopic and short-sighted, Shorty G, Ali, Ricochet, the three midget amigos joined Roman Reigns and Rusev as part of Team Hogan, and they pulled Jimmy Hart out of fucking Florida out of his bar to join Hogan.
Pickled Jimmy Hart.
Poor Jimmy Hart just wants to sit in his bar and watch football, and they were like, "No, Jimmy, we need you in Saudi Arabia
and drink beer in cans, right?
Yes. Oh,
because you can't have glass on the beach.
Rice and beans and the beers in cans, everybody.
There you go.
My wife still says that it's the best anniversary we've ever had together. Was the weekend that we went to Jimmy Hart's bar.
Oh my God! I don't know what that says about you, Mark. I don't know.
We also watched Conor McGregor versus Khabib Nurmagomedov in a hot tub. Best night of my life. Anyway, Team Flair, Randy Orton, King Corbin, Bobby Lashley, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Drew McIntyre. Team Flair. See my thoughts on the tag team match. Chris Bailey.
I like this a little bit better than you guys probably. It had some real energy. The crowd was really, really pumped. I mean, Roman Reigns, when he came out, the ovation was staggering. He was mega, mega hot in Saudi Arabia. But he was cast with a cast of clowns here with Shorty G and, oh my God, you had Rusev and Ali. I mean, could you possibly have a worse crew? And then you had Ricochet, who continues to come out in these Marvel comic suits. Now,
the fuck was he wearing?
He was dressed as Captain Marvel.
That's not what that was.
Way.
Yes, it was, wasn't it?
He looked like one of the Silverhawks.
No, man, that's Captain Marvel. I guarantee you. I got to check it out. I'm Googling that as we speak.
I remember when Gargano came out as Captain Marvel. That one looked like Captain Marvel. I couldn't. My wife asked me, like, "Oh, who the fuck is he dressed up as now?" And I'm like, I don't know. And the Silverhawks was the wrong reference. I'm thinking of.
Oh, it's not Silverhawks.
Yeah, it's not.
But anyway, go ahead.
No, he reminded me of some '80s cartoon that involved people with wings, but I can't remember what it was now.
Battle of the Planets, maybe.
Maybe.
I'll check it out after, as you guys are talking. But anyway, the match itself, I didn't think it was too bad. I think they underutilized Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan. Would it have been too bad to have Hogan throw a punch and knock Flair out? Come on, let's be honest. They did nothing with these two. They didn't really have them doing much interference. They had them doing nothing. Actually, like, Hogan didn't really get the response, I think, that they were looking for. They didn't do the pose down in the ring. Like, there was all these things that they could have done with the Hogan-Flair thing. It was kind of an afterthought. It was the Roman Reigns show again, all over again. So I think just having Hogan and Flair there was just to get a paycheck and move on. But anyway, it is what it is. The match, like you said, similar to the tag match. I could really care less. It had zero consequence. Little Shorty G was in there doing his Shorty G thing, and I don't know, man. Moving on.
Friend of mine, I complained pretty loudly on Twitter about the whole Shorty G thing, and I was like, this is a fucking embarrassment. And the response from a friend of the show and one of my co-hosts on a different podcast compared the Shorty G thing to IRS and The Undertaker and a few more gimmicky gimmicks. And I didn't want to get into an argument with him on Twitter because it's a poor medium for arguing with people, I think. But I kept thinking to myself at the time, one, that was 20, 30 fucking years ago in a time that was super gimmicky to begin with. And, what's-his-face made IRS work, and obviously Calloway made The Undertaker work. But you can... Context is key here. And again, they pushed The Undertaker to the fucking moon. Had they buried him the way that they've been doing fucking Shorty G, Chad Gable, I can't call him, Chad Gable, The Undertaker would have never gotten off, because for every Undertaker and for every IRS and for every Kamala and for every Papa Shango or Ultimate Warrior, there was also Bastion Booger and the Berserker Husk. Mm-hmm. There was also, years later, Beaver Cleavage, which lasted all of one night. So you can't say, like, oh, he's making the best of it. Okay. It's still stupid. It's still insulting. And there are guys even shorter than Chad on the roster.
Sure is.
So how about maybe Vince McMahon's just a dick who needs to retire? How about that?
There you go.
Like what is his gimmick anyway? He wears like a top of a singlet and basketball shorts. What gimmick is that?
He's shorty.
He's short. He's short, don't you understand?
Did that guy Skee-Lo used to dress like that? Is that like a Skee-Lo gimmick from back in the day? I don't know. Ugh. But it's just, The Undertaker, you mentioned him. Nobody was saying, hey, you're an Undertaker as a joke. Nobody was making fun of him for digging graves. Here we have, they might as well have called him like, hey, Bedwetter G. They're making fun of something he's doing. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to embrace my bedwetting. So you can call me Bedwetter G. I just, how does that equal money anywhere?
Right.
It doesn't.
World heavyweight champion Midget McCoy. It's
right.
It's the Red Rooster thing. It's just not intention to make money.
But that's another example of, Terry Taylor utterly misunderstanding that gimmick and what Vince McMahon was talking about. And he's like, "You're the cock of the walk." And
he's like, "Oh, I'm a bird then, right?"
Right. He just was just really concrete and leaned into it, and what a surprise it didn't take off.
Well, Ricochet, I got an update, folks. So he was My Hero Academia's All Might. There you go.
Oh,
anime character. There you go.
There you go. Okay.
All Might. There you go.
Great.
Cool. But the match was.
I respect Ricochet a lot more now.
I'm sure you do.
The match was okay. I loved Rusev's Hogan tribute gear. I thought that was cool. I think Rusev is money if they let him be. I really love the personality that he's allowed to show as a babyface is just off the charts. I think he's just hilarious to see this big brooding guy like being funny and marking out over Hulk Hogan. Like they're posing for a picture. He's like, Team Hogan, baby. It's like, what?
What do you think of this angle where Lashley's banging his ex-wife or his current wife or whatever the hell she is?
I guess when Mike and Maria decided they wanted to leave, they had to find another cuckold gimmick. I don't know. It's just like Paul Heyman had it in the back of his head. He's like, I gotta do a cuckold gimmick, and then
I don't think that came from Paul Heyman. I'm pretty sure that's Vince McMahon going, well, no one would let me fuck my daughter, so how about if... Remember those days? Remember when he wanted to fuck his daughter as a gimmick?
He wanted to impregnate his daughter, and then when she said no, he wanted Shane to impregnate her. So
yeah.
But
if we don't get a retweet from Brazers, there's no reason, there's no hope in the world.
I'm just hoping we find out that like Lana, Rusev, and Lashley all went to the same summer camp as kids, and then she's going to become pregnant, but it'll be with the other one's kid, and then one of them will get hit with a stop sign, and it'll be all good.
I hope she gives birth to a hand.
But what color will the hand be?
Good question.
That's the question. That's the question. But
the
match was okay. I don't even remember who won, but I remember the match being okay.
Team Hogan, Roman Reigns.
That sounds about right.
I can't even make fun of the whole Lashley Rusev thing, because while it's not for me, apparently the last segment where Lana badly acted her way through a shitty promo about how she's a model and doesn't want to have a baby.
He's a sex addict.
She did that entire bit like it was a hostage video.
Boy, is this the right place for that?
He want put baby in me.
I'm pretty sure she was blinking send help. Either way, it got the highest segment of the night, so fucking monster trucks and cuckolding, these are the things that make America great.
Oh man, I can't wait to hashtag cuckold. That's great.
You might not want to follow that hashtag.
We're gonna get thousands of hits on this one.
You're gonna find some weird fetishes.
Bailey, what did you think of Team Hogan versus Team Flair?
You already asked me.
Okay, terrific. All right.
I'll say it all over again. No,
it's fine. All right. The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, finally, Chris Bailey wins the Universal title away from beige Seth Rollins.
Thank God, number one.
Okay, just, dear Seth Rollins, picking on Kenny Omega on Twitter doesn't give you a gimmick or a personality. It just makes you seem like a douchebag. Love, Mark Radulich. Moving on.
Yeah, you aren't lying, brother. Seth Rollins, I mean, the fans have been turning against him for the past several weeks now. The writing was on the wall with his title reign. I mean, that thing with Becky Lynch where they're going to be the nice guy couple and, very endearing to the fans. It didn't work. But Seth Rollins' entire downfall is based on his promos. The guy can go in the ring. There's no question about that. Nobody's going to argue that. He's really got to stop that stomp thing. I mean, who is going to sit there and roll over and continuously roll over and over and over and take that stupid curb stomp? It just drives me crazy. So I hate his promos. He sounds like he speaks through his – sounds like he had a sinus infection. And he's talking like this. It's so ridiculous. And anyway, you get to The Fiend, and you got that stupid red light. I am done with the red light. I know. And now The Fiend is taking on the whole Undertaker thing where you can't beat him. He just keeps sitting up, which is kind of cool. It gets over every single time. But this whole thing is a disaster. This is not how The Fiend should have won the title. Seth Rollins should have never had the belt in the beginning. He's just not ready. He's not over. I don't care what anybody says. Seth Rollins did not deserve that spot. He's not over enough. He doesn't have the ability on the mic to get it done. I don't care.
let me quick stick up for Seth Rollins, because I think Seth Rollins kind of went through the same transition that John Cena went through, where the best part about Seth Rollins was when he turned on the Shield and he was kind of, Triple H's anointed one. And even when he came back and he was angry with Triple H for having turned on him, and and they were doing the burn it down thing, when it was burn it down, I'm going to burn this company down because no one can be trusted and it's all a facade and a bunch of bullshit. Okay, that was all kind of interesting stuff with Seth Rollins. But I made the comparison to John Cena. So John Cena starts rapping and he's doing the thug gimmick and everything and all of that. And that was fun and interesting stuff. And then they were like, okay, so now you're going to be a good guy and you're going to have no personality and you're just going to wear colorful shirts. And that's what he was for a zillion years, which was fine because it worked with kids, and kids are the ones that buy his stupid merchandise. And that, became what the WWE was about more than anything else. So
but John Cena could go on the mic, Mark.
Sometimes.
Yes, he can. He's the company pitch man. Instead, you got picture John Cena promo. I mean, it's cookie cutter, it's cardboard. He's the company shill. And then over on the other side, you've got burn it down. Oh, it's horrible.
I guess that's what I think you and I are saying the same thing but differently, Chris. Because I feel like Seth Rollins has had moments of passion and anger and frustration that have come out in his promos before he turned that were all before, like, right up until his WrestleMania match with in Orlando with Triple H, where the burn it down thing came about. But I think since then he hasn't had a tremendous amount of translatable passion. I think he's trying, but nothing clicks. He just sounds like the new company spokesperson.
Oh, what a horrible spokesman.
The WWE.
Oh, horrible.
Yeah, so I think that's part of it is like the WWE just sometimes, and Becky Lynch isn't much better.
Oh no, she's terrible as well on the mic.
Well, it's like, and I've said this in a bunch of, we've talked about this a couple of times before, it bears repeating. It's not that she's popular, it's she happened to have been the beneficiary of everyone being frustrated with Charlotte Flair's constant push.
Yeah.
Yep.
And feeling like, does anyone else get a fucking chance in this company? And Becky Lynch happened to be that person at that time that everyone was like, we'll fucking
Perfect
cheer
storm.
you because at least you're not Charlotte, and has no other reason why she's over.
And now she's almost more annoying than Charlotte.
Yeah, because she doesn't know why she's over either, and she thinks she does, and it's like, nope, sir, nobody gives a fucking shit.
She doesn't even have nice breasts.
Anyway,
You know it's true.
I'm not. Look, in her current wrestling gear, she looks like melted fudge. I'm not disagreeing with you. But whatever.
I'm just speaking to the masses. The people needed to hear that.
I'm not the one banging her. That's Seth's problem. It's whatever. We're not here to body shame, says the guy who called Cain Velasquez a honey baked ham. So anyway, so just rounding back to Rollins versus Bray Wyatt. I think Rollins was the least interesting member of the Shield. And he's sort of been the beneficiary of sometimes being in the right spot at the right time. But he doesn't really have, and they're not giving him anything to work with to make him interesting beyond reacting to whatever problem he's got going on. Which, again, was a lot of John Cena's problem. His match with Bray Wyatt, this was sort of we're sorry about Hell in the Cell, we'll try harder this time and not be stupid. And they finally put the title on Bray. I mean, it was fine. I mean, the two guys are competent enough. Though Bray Wyatt a few months ago did the pull up your pants and do the muscle man dance, and he actually looked really, really fit and trim. And he's another one who has decided that the gym is located in catering. Like, what the hell?
He literally gained 30 pounds since he came back.
Does nobody work out on the main fucking roster anymore? What's going on?
Finn Balor does.
So I'll take a time out here from ranting about or defending Seth Rollins. Chris Sheehan, what did you think of this match?
It was gimmicky. I'm happy it ended the way it did. I, like you guys, I don't understand, like, what is Seth Rollins' character? I don't know what it is. I feel like there is, like, a way to really make him stand out, but it's not in the way they want them to. Like, I could look at him and I see, like, that old Bo Dallas gimmick where it's like he was a mega heel, but he thought he was a babyface. Like, I would love to see Seth come out because all he does is spout WWE isms anyway. I would love to see that become his character, his gimmick. Like, he does this burn it down bullshit and he literally burnt something down the other day. It's like it's just so dumb.
The Funhouse.
God, I mean, it's just so stupid. But I would love for him just to, like, spout, like, be like Michael Cole in the real world. Like, hey, Roman Reigns, big dog, this is your yard. How are you today? Like, just totally go over the top with it.
Be the Goldberg 5000, and by Goldberg I mean Mike Goldberg from the UFC. Okay, so real quick, the Mike Goldberg 5000 was a joke me and my friend used to do while watching old UFC pay-per-views, where every time Mike Goldberg would speak, we were imagining him as the DJ 5000 from The Simpsons, which would just spout radioisms. So you press a button, and he would go, "The beautiful Ariani." And and it would just keep doing that. so Seth Rollins is as the DJ 5000. That's what we want here.
Yeah, just like have him like, hey, what's going on, WWE Universe? I mean, just totally go over the top with it because he's got that nasally voice. He just looks like an asshole. He looks like a
He does.
He just looks like a weaselly prick. I mean, just play it up, make him a weaselly prick. I don't see any babyface fire in him. I will never. There will never be a situation wherein I will cheer Seth Rollins.
Nope.
I mean, he could be fighting the devil himself, and it's like, well, I don't know if I don't want this one to go that way.
I see the devil's point of view here.
Yeah, he's making points here, but I just can't see myself ever rooting for Seth. After that shit show at Hell in the Cell, that only made it, that just compounded just the Rollins fatigue. He needs a break. He needs to go on vacation for a few weeks or something because it's just too damn much. Happy it ended the way it did. I thought it was a little bit too much gaga with the it's what was that on The Office where Kevin said that the way you get rid of evil dolls is by throwing them into a pool of electricity. And that's basically what they did with Wyatt here. They threw him into a pool of electricity, and he still got up and won. But just too much gaga, too much circus for what should have been Bray just destroying Rollins in a cell last month.
And are you a fan of the red light, Chris?
No, I do not like the red light. It's very distracting. I don't know how the people in the arena don't just start booing the shit out of it when it goes on, because you got to imagine they can't see very well. I mean, at least we have close-ups, but when you're like in the nosebleeds and everything is black and red, it's like you're playing Virtual Boy from a mile away.
It feels like the WWE writing staff these days, led by Vince McMahon, have become utterly concrete in their thinking, and like they're not telling stories so much as, and I talk about this with the creation of movies, where it's just like, let's storyboard this with, we should put this scene in there, we should put this scene in there, and there's no cohesiveness to it. There's nothing beneath the surface. It's just, well, this looks cool.
Series of vignettes.
This looks cool. Yeah. And we'll have a plane driving into this plane, and we'll have Sarah Connor do this, and we'll do that. And it's like, you can tell I just saw Terminator. It all just, it seems like they're reaching and grasping at straws for very, very surface level basic ideas without really thinking about the presentation as a whole.
All they're thinking about is the highlight reel. They're thinking about what they're going to play as a highlight next week without any of the context, because it's like, wow, this is really cool. Wyatt stood up from the fire. Oh, that's really cool. It doesn't matter how we got there. It doesn't matter what happened afterwards, but we have this really cool visual that the cameraman was in the right spot for. That's all that they're doing. I think we talked about this last month with Hell in the Cell with the Becky and Sasha match, where it was just a series of really cool moves that meant nothing because it would make a really good highlight reel. And that's just the way they're thinking now, and it just really it doesn't do the main show that we're watching right this second any kind of service.
No. I think overall, I just thought it was fine. Again, kind of a summary of what you guys are saying. It's like, yeah, they kind of had the same match that they had at Hell in the Cell, only it was all over the floor and whatnot. And they did, we've seen the spots where they fall into the electric boxes and stuff blows up. We've seen a lot of this stuff before. And so it's like, okay, but you can say that with a lot of matches. Yeah, but I'm interested in the characters involved in those matches. So if I'm not really interested in the story they're telling and I'm not interested in these characters, and I've already said, they lost me with Bray Wyatt a long time ago. Now he's got the title. At least they've sort of made up for the 900 losses in a row that they did with him initially. So we'll see how long he keeps the title, though. That's the other problem with the WWE, is that they're really, really fond of putting a title on a guy for a moment and then be like, okay, well, the moment's over. Now we'll put it back on, we'll put it back on Seth Rollins on Monday. Because who gives a shit? It's like, all right. 900-time women's champion, Charlotte Flair. Sure.
Historic!
With her 5-minute title reigns. So, overall, Bailey, did you want to add anything else to The Fiend versus Seth Rollins?
No, listen, this just the pay-per-view in general. The pay-per-view in general was a lot better than any of the other previous Saudi outings. It actually had some historical consequence with a world title change. This pay-per-view was probably a lot better than it ever had right to be quite honest with you. Seth Rollins versus Bray Wyatt was just another disappointment, and Seth Rollins needs some time off and a reboot, man.
Overall, there was some solid wrestling. There was things I liked, things I didn't care about. That's sort of the average WWE show for me. Nothing as embarrassingly bad as the main event from Hell in the Cell. And this was, like I said, I think this was better than the previous Saudi shows. The only one that really sticks in my memory as, that I remember not being an embarrassment was the Greatest Royal Rumble, which I watched, and it felt like a WWE show. Just so it can be addressed, and we can say we talked about it. So the whole thing coming out of this show was that Brock left, Vince left. Apparently the Saudis hadn't paid the WWE what they owed them, so Vince McMahon, in a truly professional moment, cut the live feed to the Saudi audience at home. And in retaliation, the Saudis wouldn't let the WWE wrestlers leave, though they said it was a mechanical issue. And within 24 hours, they were all gone. They got them on another plane. They were gone. And I think the Saudis paid the WWE $60 million. And I guess this all got worked out behind the scenes. I'm pulling this from different sources. There's a lot coming out of Meltzer, and you can't really 100% trust what Meltzer writes. So who the fuck knows? But just a quick comment on this. What did you guys think of the Saudi hostage crisis?
Oh, boy. So, you know what? If I was over in Saudi and I got pulled from my plane or my plane got delayed, I'd be nervous too. That's where I'll leave it.
Okay.
It's about the size of it. Yeah, I think I think the internet and the Meltzers of the world really want this to be something bigger than it might have actually been. But I have, I don't know what happened. I wasn't there, and I don't know anybody who was there either. But just like Chris said, if I was on a plane and I got yanked off in a different country, no matter what other country it was, I'd be a little nervous.
Yep.
Let me address this possible news item that Vince cut the feed because he hadn't gotten paid. If that's really true, how unprofessional was Vince? You can't do that. You can't we're gonna run this TV show. This somewhat smells to me like the whole story behind the Ultimate Warrior getting fired after SummerSlam.
I couldn't wait to fire him.
Yeah, I don't know. It smells kind of fishy to me. I don't know how much of that I believe, but still, let us assume for just a moment that it was actually true. Even if they hadn't paid you, maybe the middle of the show isn't the best time to be like, you know what? Fuck these people. and then and cut the feed. That just seems like you know, in terms of a business deal, seems like you're a crazy person and no one should do business with you anymore because they don't know what unpredictable thing you're going to do next.
It's Carney played corporate. It's
Absolutely.
The rules are different, and as much as I'm in the entertainment business, pal, it's still a carnival going from city to city, and they write their own rules. So it's, I don't know, it's just weird. It's a very weird and nebulous sort of social moray or corporate moray between them and their stakeholders and who they do business with. And I couldn't explain Vince if I spent 100 years with him. I don't think I could explain his motivations. But it's if that's the case, I mean, if they didn't pay you, you don't go back.
Right.
You hold them up before you land, but who knows? Who knows?
I was going to say, like, that's you go, you smile, you put the show on as you're contractually obligated to, and then say, we will not set foot in this country once everyone's home safe. We will not set foot in this country ever again. We won't even take your call until we're paid up the money that we're supposed to be paid up to this point. Like,
absolutely.
I'm a fucking nobody social worker, and I came up with that. How the hell did this guy run a $1 billion company and think, I'll just cut the feed? Bah! And you, Bobby Lashley, fuck that blonde woman on camera. What? But, silver linings, because half the SmackDown roster was trapped in Saudi Arabia, we got the best episode of SmackDown in like 100 years.
Yep, we actually just covered it in a little after show to this show.
Go on.
Yes, no, we did. We actually just recorded it. So there's lots of surprises to come.
Oh, okay. Is this a Patreon extra that you guys did?
This could be a Patreon extra.
Wherever you want it.
All right. The Chris,
it's up to you, Mr. Radulich.
So, what did you guys review? Just the SmackDown episode?
We did the full SmackDown episode. Yeah,
the
and all
NXT
the surprises and the plane delay fiasco.
The NXT invasion. It's sort of the, speaking of Marvel Comics, the what if the ECW WCW invasion was actually done right by people who weren't pieces of shit.
Scrubs. Yeah.
Exactly.
I always, just as an aside, that was always the thing that drove me nuts about that was like, well, these guys lost the war and went out of business, so they can't win matches. Great. Why are we doing this then? Why, as a fan, should I give a shit about any of this?
You beat DDP 700 times, 701. I'm going to care. That's when I'm going to be invested.
Come on, Undertaker, make me famous. Okay, how about if I pin you 100 times in a row and have my wife kick your ass? Famous enough? Sure. Anyway, all right, folks. Thank you for listening to our coverage of Crown Jewel 2019. Obviously, a historic event filled with wonderful action. So, Chris Sheehan, what's going on the old treadmill?
Well, we're still doing shows. Got some solo.
Chris, we lost you for a second.
Is he there or is he gone?
He's still there on Skype. Hey, you back?
Well, I think he disappeared into the ether, Mr. Radulich.
All right, you go ahead, Bailey, until he comes back.
All right. Well, you can find me on Twitter at Charlton_Hero. You can also find me and the disappearing Mr. Sheen every Monday on Moratory Mondays over on the Chris and Reggie Network. And you can also find me here covering some wrestling action over here on TV Party Tonight with Mr. Mark Radulich and Chris Sheehan most of the time. So that's it for me. Thanks for having me, Marcus. Have a good night.
Yes, Chris Bailey will be back with me a week from tonight to cover AEW Full Gear. It'll just be me, Chris Bailey, and Orange Cassidy. It'll be fantastic.
I will podcast with my hands in my pocket.
Terrific. All right, this week we've got, speaking of Chris Bailey, we had a hell of a show coming up for you on November 4th, Terminator: The Burning Earth.
Oh, I can't wait for everybody to hear it.
Oh, yes, if you thought we were obnoxious tonight, can't wait for you to hear the comments that came out of the Burning Earth conversation. The gag reel is podcast gold, if nothing else.
We burned it down, Mark.
We certainly did, Ollie. This Tuesday, myself and Robert Winfrey will be reviewing Terminator Dark Feminism. Wednesday, November 6th, myself and Jesse Starcher will be reviewing the new As I Lay Dying, Shaped by Fire. And then that's it for this week. No boxing coverage this weekend, no MMA coverage, just AEW Full Gear Tuesday, November 10th. You can check out our reviews of Blackest Night, Zombieland Double Tap, Lords of Chaos, the movie about the Norwegian black metal scene, specifically Mayhem and Burzum. You can also check out our alternative commentaries. We did one for UFC 244, the bad motherfucker championship of the world, between Jorge Masvidal and Mumbling Nate Diaz. So check that out. I'll give you a hint about how that one went. We agreed with the stoppage. And then we did, because they were so kind on DAZN to wait until the UFC was done, we covered Canelo versus Kovalev. So go ahead and check those out if you're interested in hearing what we thought of those fights. All right, for the two Chris's, my name is Mark Radulich. This has been TV Party Tonight. Be well, be safe, and behave.
See ya.